So with us here tonight is Dan Christ. Dan is a longtime Oley resident and is also very well known as the longtime Oley funeral director.
That's Friendly Undertaker.
Friendly Undertaker before he retired. So welcome here tonight, Dan, to share some Oley history, Oley Fair history.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the fair and how it all started.
Okay, I'm going back into the 50s.
That's fine.
I was a teenager in Fleetwood, and the Snyder family had a appliance store at that time. They rented one of the tents down in the field. I used to help them. We'd load up probably all of the store up there and truck it down to the fair for a day or two and set it up, and then of course had to tear it down and take it home afterwards. So that's how I first got involved in the fair. So then in '64, we moved to Oley. I'm up at the end of the alley where we lived, and I'm in the backyard one morning, and I see this old Dodge truck come up from the lumber yard up the alley. I didn't know who it was. Comes up through, turns the corner, and stops. I walked out, and because I had no idea. He introduced Wally Levengood. Okay, I'm Dan Christ. So he says, you took over for Wally. I said, yes. He said, well, Wally used to go visit the churches. I had no idea what he was talking about. He said, so Wally would go see the churches and get a schedule together where they worked and everything, and parking permits and stuff. I would say he didn't say, do you want to do it? He said, you now have a job, is what he said. Now he said, well, I said, I don't even know half the people in town. He said, that's all right, don't worry about it. Russ Halls lives across the street. He said, you go see Russ and he'll go along with you and tell you where to go and what to do. Okay, so that's the way that worked out. I probably did that for 30 years, maybe, I'm not even sure. But anyway, that's where the church, at that time, there was only 8 churches involved. I think today, you're talking what, 18, 20?
It's about 19.
And other, not just churches.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was that. So then at the time, Bob Gensel was the manager of the food. And somehow or another, I became his assistant. I don't know how that worked. But anyway, let's put it, I was the runner. One day, I might end up in a French fried building when we used to peel the potatoes in the machine. Cut the potatoes. Do that one day. The next day, I was frying hot dogs. The next day, I was frying hamburgers. Who knows where I was going to end up at. Anyway, that was basically what happened there. As time marched on, now I'm going to bring the truck crew into this, because that week, the truck crew, and I was one of the fire chiefs at the time, we would set up the parking out back, put up ropes and measure off and all this and that, where to park and what have you. So we did that. As a matter of fact, once or twice, as I recall, the truck crew, we'd get a gang together with our tractors, and we actually mowed the grass. It didn't look so good, so we actually mowed the grass, maybe half a dozen of us, and got that straightened out. We did that. The other thing the truck crew was involved in at the fair was on a Saturday afternoon, we had a chicken barbecue. And we'd set up down in the parking lot behind the fire company, move all the fire trucks out, set up tables and what have you, and we actually, I think we used to do maybe 700, 800. I think it might have got to 1,000 half chickens. And that equipment and stuff we got from sharers way back when. I don't think they're in existence anymore. So anyway, that was that. Trying to think. Car show. Somewhere, well, I'm going to stop for a minute. That you talked about the horse show.
Yes. Can you tell us anything about the horse show?
I don't know much about the horse show. But if you go up in my old barn, on the second floor, you might find all the lumber from where the horses would jump over fences and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff was in my barn up there. Whether it still is or not, I have excuse me, no idea. Trying to think.
So going back to the car show.
Yeah. I skipped that.
You had been chair of the car show for many, many years.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, at that time on a Saturday, I guess there wasn't really anything going that I can think about over in the school parking lot. Anyway, we decided to have a car show. So Bob and Emma Manmiller and their family, and let's call me the chairman, got that organized and straightened it out. And we used the school parking lot. And for several years, with their family help and everything, we ran the car show. And then little by little, it kind of faded away, to be honest with you. But then the Corvette Club stepped in and took it over. And as far as I know, they're still commander-in-chief of what goes on. So that worked out pretty good.
Do you remember what year the car show originally started by chance? No,
I have no idea.
Okay.
No, I don't
okay.
remember.
Do you remember the first year, 2, 3? Did you give trophies, or was it just a show and that was it?
The fair would pay for the trophies, let's put it that way. And we had classes, maybe 10 classes, with like 2 or 3 trophies in each class. And then best of show usually was the president of the fair took care of that.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. We used to get like, I'm going to say 100 cars at that time. But I know with the Corvette Club getting in there, they fill up the parking lot usually. So that's been working pretty good. And they have a lot more help and so forth and so on.
Yeah.
The only other thing I can think about was like all these different churches that came and helped. I think of the old French fried stand. It was a French fried stand at the one end. The women's club had the fruit in the middle. And I know our church made the Italian sandwiches at the other end. I can vaguely remember that.
A little bit of tight quarters.
What?
A little bit of tight quarters for everybody.
Yeah, yes, it was. And you had the big refrigerated truck outside the door, and same way up at the other building to keep things cool. Refrigeration was far and few between.
Yeah.
Not like it is now, let's say.
Yeah.
The big thing was when you guys built the new building and everything, that made it very amazing. In my opinion, it even could have been a little bit bigger, but that's neither here nor there.
So, Dan, you were, as you said, the friendly Oley undertaker for many, many years.
Yeah.
And there was always a joke during the week of the fair. Tell us what that joke is.
Okay, well, the joke was when the Oley Fair came around, Dan got busy. And I always had like 1 or 2 funerals through the week. But there was one year, and I don't remember when it was, when somebody, I have no idea who, decided to shut down Main Street. Up at the hotel, they closed it off, and down at this end. That week, I had 5 funerals and 5 viewings. And if I remember right, Chief Endy was the cop. He didn't know what to do anymore because he had police stationed, or not police, fire police, stationed at either end. And all these people, well, I'm going to Dan, I'm going to a viewing. I didn't go out, I didn't see what, but it had to be interesting. The traffic, I'm saying. It was cool, really was.
So it was officially known as the Oley Fair Special that nobody wanted to take part of, right?
Yeah, more or less, yes. Right.
So Dan, you've been around Oley for a long time. You were involved with the fair for a long time. There's got to be a memory or two that just sticks in your mind that you'd like to share with everybody from years ago.
There was 2. The biggest thing I got a kick out was Wari, Levengood. that to me was cool because I didn't know who the man was, had no idea. And like I say, he described, now Wally Long was the funeral director before that. And he more or less said what was done, and he said, and like I said, he indicated, do you want to do it? No, you're hired, you know, and that was the end of that. And then I think well, then I'd retired, and a couple of years later, I think you made a phone call to me and said, Dan, we need help. What's going on? We don't have anybody to take the tickets and stuff out. I don't remember when that was either. Will you help us out? Well, that turned into another maybe 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure. But anyway, that to me was the very interesting part.
Well, Dan, thank you very much for sharing these memories with us. Thank you for all the years you were involved in not only the Oley Fair, but also as our local friendly undertaker.
Thank you.
And once again, thank you for being with us tonight.
No problem. Glad to help.